Hello students, in today's lecture of design of AC machine, we are going to see some of the important terms and then we will start again with the design of a stator. Okay, so first of all, the first term that we are going to study is peripheral speed. Now, what is peripheral speed? Now, we have to remember is the formula directly, bro, okay? What is formula of peripheral speed? Peripheral speed is given by V is equal to pi d into n, where d is the diameter of the stator bore and n is the speed in RPS. That we have already discussed. How we will get? We will get it by dividing ns by 60, right? This is our speed in RPS. So the equation for the peripheral speed is given by V is equal to pi dn meter per second. We have to remember the unit also. Now, there is a certain limit for the value of the peripheral speed, and that is the maximum permissible value for the peripheral speed is 30 meter per second. You cannot go with your design, okay, if the value of the peripheral speed is coming 30 meter per second, right? Beyond that, it is not permitted and your design is faulty. So, what happens? If you calculate the value of peripheral speed and your value comes above 30 meter per second, then you have to recalculate your d, that is diameter of the bore, and bring the value of peripheral speed in between within the limits, right? Or if you don't want to do that, you have to design a rotor with a special construction, but it will make your motor or the rotor construction stator construction costly, right? Even for the special rotor construction, that is, even if you design a special rotor for the speed beyond 30 meter per second, then also you can go up to only 60 to 75 meter per second, right? So that is the upper limit for the value of the peripheral speed. So in this topic, you have to mainly remember is what is peripheral speed's equation, that is given by V is equal to pi ds meter per second, okay? And in that, d is nothing but the diameter of the bore in meter and n is nothing but the speed in RPS, okay? So next term is ventilating duct. Now ventilating ducts are generally used for the cooling purposes. You might have seen that in the transformers also we are using ventilation ducts, okay? So here what happens when we talk about the induction motor, if the core length, stator core length is beyond 16 to 18 centimeter, then the cooling by the natural means becomes very difficult, and due to that there is a possibility that there may be certain hotspots created on various parts of the stator, right? So in order to cool that down, we will require the ventilating ducts, okay? And the type of the ventilating ducts used is generally radial type, okay? So generally the width of this each duct is 8 to 10 mm. Here you can see that on this rotor a ventilating duct is created, right? So in this you have to just remember is this, that a ventilating duct is generally provided is of radial type and it is generally used to cool down the hotspot that are created on the rotor, okay, when the length is beyond 16 to 18 centimeter, okay? Now the gross length, if you find what is the gross length, then it is given by Lg is equal to L minus Nd into Wd. Now L is nothing but the length of the stator core, that is this total length will be given by of the stator, not of the rotor. This is rotor, right? So length of the stator core is the total length, L is the total length of the stator. Now Nd is nothing but the number of ducts, that is the number of ventilating ducts that you are providing. Suppose you are providing 2 ventilating ducts, then Nd will be 2. If it is 3, then Nd will be 3. Then Wd is nothing but the width of each duct, okay? You are providing, suppose a width, each duct is of 5, right? Each duct is of 5 mm. If you are providing with that, then your width will be 5. Now net iron length Li is nothing but Ks into Lg. Now Ks is stacking factor, which is generally taken 0.9, okay, and Lg is nothing but what we have already found, that is the gross core length. So in this formula or in this topic, you have to just remember is this ventilating duct, what purpose it is used, what are its dimensions, which type generally is used, gross length of the core, and what is ND and WD, that is only important. Okay, so you have to remember that. Okay, so now we will moving further. We are going to start with the design of a stator that we have already covered once, but we are going to repeat it. Okay, so first of all, stator usually consists of a stator winding and a stator core, that is the outermost covering that we call yoke. Okay, and inside periphery there are slots given in which we will place our conductors, and we will make connections as per our requirement, and it will form the stator winding. So first of all, the stator winding is of importance to us as it is going to provide us with the rotating magnetic field that is being required. So stator windings are generally two types. One is single layer winding and another is double layer winding. Now what is single layer and what is double layer, that you already studied in your machine classes. Now we will be revising it. Suppose this is a stator slot and you are placing one coil side here. Okay, one conductor is being placed here. So no other conductor will be placed above this conductor and below this conductor. This slots completely belongs to this only conductor. Then this type of winding is called single layer winding. That means one conductor slots consist of only one coil side. No other coil side's top is at the top or at the bottom, right? So this is known as a single layer winding. And in the case of double layer winding, you will be having some of the other coils at the top or the bottom of the conductor of the other coil, right? So in short, single layer means only one conductor coil is present in one slot, whereas in double layer winding there will be two coils present, two or more coils can be present, right? Now single layer mesh winding is used for small motors and small number of slots, whereas double layer, the two examples of the double layer windings are lap winding and wave winding that we have already studied, right? Where diamond shaped coils is used for the medium size motors, and the slots are open. We have already seen the types of slots: open, semi closed and tapered, right? So here open slots are preferred. Okay, now as per the temperature class, insulation is provided based on the temperature. Now the all the insulations have their breakdown or have the certain dielectric strength up to which they can sustain the potential of the electric potential, beyond which what will happen, they will just break down. So based on the working voltage, the insulation is selected. Okay, and now the temperature also, the temperature, all the insulations have the temperatural limits, right? Beyond that they will not be able to sustain the temperature and they will melt down or be damaged. So based on the temperature, we have to design or use the insulation type of the insulation. The three phase stator windings are connected in either star or delta. Okay, as I said, the stator winding are housed in the stator core and they are connected in either star or delta depending upon the starting method. If you want a star delta starter, it will be connected that way. If you want another method, it will be connected as per the requirement. The squirrel cage induction motor are usually started by star delta starter and the stator is designed in delta connection. Okay, as per the requirement we are doing that, but it is mainly for the squirrel cage induction motor. Now another type of motor is slip ring induction motor, that is wound rotor type. Okay, the starting method is resistance, that is rotor resistance starting is used. That means you are adding an additional resistance in your rotor circuit at the starting time, and then it will gradually be cut out as the motor gathers the speed. So this is the rotor resistance starter, and for that purpose stator can be designed either for star or delta. It doesn't have any requirement. Okay, so this was the stator winding, two types: single layer, double layer. And based on the insulation, based on the temperature levels, we will be dividing or providing the insulations to it. Okay, and these windings are connected either in star or delta as per our requirement. Very easy topic. Now moving further, the first point that is required in the design of a stator is stator turns per phase. Okay, this we have already discussed in the later lectures. Okay, so stator turns per phase. Now we have that. Now stator turns per phase, we know that the EMF induced in each phase, or the voltage per stator voltage per phase, is given by ES is equal to 4.44 F phi m Ts kWs. F is frequency, this is flux density, T is turns per phase, and Kw is our stator winding factor. You must be clear with these terminologies. If you are not, then you have to remember this, because as we move further, more and more new terms are going to be added, right? So first of all, this frequency, we know that it is 50 hertz. Okay, no need for that. Now this phi m, what is phi m? Now this is flux density. We have already seen in the last lecture that what is magnetic flux density, okay, or the specific magnetic loading, right? Specific magnetic loading. We have seen that. For that, the definition is average flux density over the air gap is known as the specific magnetic loading. So for that, the formula is given here: BAV is equal to P phi upon pi dl. Here flux phi is nothing but the maximum flux per pole, right? So here we can make phi m is equal to, if we take phi is equal to phi m and take pi dl over here and p also over here, we will be getting the final equation phi m. So if a specific magnetic loading is given and you are not being provided with the flux or phi m, right, we can easily derive this from this equation. Now what we are finding over here is turns per phase, that is TPH. Now here TPH is given. What we will do, we will take all other terms on the other side, and we will be getting stator turns per phase as ES upon 4.44 F phi m kWs. Okay, so this was an easy equation that was derived directly from the equation of voltage per phase. Okay, voltage per phase, and based on that we can easily take what are our turns from per phase, and if phi m is not provided, we will derive it, or we will get it from the equation of a specific magnetic loading, which will be provided to you. Okay, now we will move further. Stator conductors. Okay, now stator conductors, area of the cross section, right? Area of the cross section of the stator conductors can be estimated from this. Also we have seen current density, kVA rating of the machine, and stator voltage per phase. Okay, these three are the parameters based on which the cross sectional area of our stator conductor is decided. Now current density, that is denoted by delta S, is usually between 3.3 to 5 ampere per mm square. Now this is the range of the current density for the stator conductors. It should remain in between that, right? This you have to remember, 3 to 5 ampere per mm square. And the kVA rating of the three-phase machine is given by Q is equal to 3 ESIS into 10 raised to the power minus 3. Now ES is stator voltage per phase, IS is stator current per phase. Now if we want to find current density, suppose if we want to find current density, we all know that current density is nothing but current upon cross sectional area. Okay, so for finding delta S, that is current density, we will require I as well as the cross sectional area. So from where we can get this I is taken from the equation of kVA rating of a three-phase machine, right? So we will be taking all these things on the other side, and we will be getting this equation: IS is equal to Q upon 3 ES into 10 raised to the power minus 3, right? Where delta is our current density, AS is nothing but the area of the cross section of the stator conductors, and DS is the diameter of the stator conductor. Now this is the formula of current density. So as I said, current density is given by IS upon AS. What we are trying to find over here is cross sectional area, so we will be taking AS on the other side and IS upon delta S, right? So this is the area of the cross sectional area of the stator conductor which we want to find. So we are getting the directly equation. Now suppose we want to find the diameter of the stator conductor. What we will be doing here, we know that area, generally the conductors that we are using are cylindrical or the circular in shape, round in shape, right? So for that, area is given by pi by 4 d square. Now if you want to find that, then ds, that is the diameter, is given by under root 4 as by pi. So this will, by this equation you will be getting the diameter of the stator conductor, but that is after you have found out what is the cross sectional area of the conductor. Okay, because in some of the numericals it will be required to find the diameter of the conductor, right? So in that case you must be aware with the fact that the area is given by pi by 4 d square, and from that we will find d, right? Now moving further, round conductors are used for small diameters. As I said, generally the round conductors are preferred. Many reasons are there after that. Okay, round conductor is preferred, but if the diameter is more than 2 to 3 mm, then bar or strip types are used. Okay, bar and strip type conductors are used. Okay, so here we will be completing our this lecture. We have completed few of the terms related to our design purpose, that is ventilating duct, peripheral speed. Okay, this all will be required when we solve the numericals. So you have to remember that equations, also the notation, what is is, what is as, how the current density is denoted, what is the range of the current density. Okay, so these all things that you have to remember. Now in next lecture we will be moving further into the design of the stator, right? And if you have any query, you can contact me.